Imagine stepping back in time, over a century ago, to the year 1900. We're not just going anywhere. We're traveling to a kingdom nestled high in the Himalayas, a place of mystery and ancient tradition, completely isolated from the Western world. Welcome to Nepal, a land ruled by the Rana dynasty, a nation frozen in a medieval state while the rest of the world raced into modernity. In 1900, Nepal was what many called a forbidden kingdom. It wasn't a place you could just book a ticket to. The ruling Rana regime, a powerful family of hereditary prime ministers, had sealed the country's borders. They feared outside influence, especially from the British Empire, which had already swallowed up neighboring India. This isolation preserved Nepal's unique culture, but also kept it in a time capsule. For the average Nepali, life hadn't changed much in centuries. The heart of the kingdom was the Kathmandu Valley. Picture it not as the bustling, vibrant city we know today, but as a collection of three ancient city-states: Kathmandu, Patan, and Bhaktapur. These weren't sprawling urban centers. They were compact cities of brick and wood, filled with intricately carved temples, grand palaces, and narrow, winding alleyways. There were no cars, no paved roads. The sounds you'd hear were the chatter of people in the market, the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer, and the sacred chime of temple bells. Life moved at the pace of the seasons, dictated by religious festivals and the agricultural cycle. Most people in Nepal were farmers. Their lives revolved around the land, planting and harvesting rice, maize, and millet on terraced hillsides that looked like giant green staircases climbing towards the sky. They used simple tools, like wooden plows pulled by oxen, techniques passed down through countless generations. Life was hard work, from dawn until dusk. Villages were close-knit communities where everyone knew each other, and life was governed by social customs and a strict caste system. This system dictated everything, from your job and who you could marry, to where you could live. It was an incredibly rigid social structure. At the very top of this structure were the Ranas. They lived lives of unimaginable luxury, a stark contrast to the poverty of the common people. While the king of Nepal was the official head of state, he was a mere figurehead, a virtual prisoner in his own palace. The real power lay with the Rana prime minister. They built opulent, European-style palaces right in the heart of Kathmandu. Places like Singha Durbar, which would later become the seat of government, were extravagant displays of wealth, filled with crystal chandeliers, Belgian mirrors, and grand ballrooms, all imported at great expense. These palaces were like little islands of European grandeur in a sea of traditional Nepali life. The Ranas hosted lavish hunting parties and grand feasts, mimicking the lifestyle of European aristocracy. For the rest of the population, however, life was far from glamorous. Education was a privilege reserved for the elite. There were almost no schools for the general public. The Ranas believed that an educated populace might question their authority, so they deliberately kept the people in the dark. Similarly, healthcare was rudimentary at best. Traditional healers and Ayurvedic practitioners were the main sources of medical care. Modern medicine was virtually non-existent for the average person. As a result, life expectancy was low, and diseases we now consider easily treatable could be a death sentence. Spirituality, however, was woven into the very fabric of daily life. Nepal in 1900 was a deeply religious land, a unique blend of Hinduism and Buddhism. The Kathmandu Valley alone was said to have more temples than houses. Religious festivals were the most important events of the year, bringing entire communities together. Processions with deities carried on ornate chariots, masked dances telling ancient stories, and communal feasts were central to the social calendar. These traditions provided a sense of identity, community, and meaning in a life that was often filled with hardship. Outside the valley, the terrain was even more rugged and challenging. Getting around meant walking for days, or even weeks, along treacherous mountain paths. There were no bridges over many of the raging rivers. People relied on precarious rope bridges or simple log crossings. This geographical isolation meant that different ethnic groups in the hills and mountains, like the Gurungs, Magars, and Sherpas, maintained their own distinct languages, customs, and traditions. They were largely self-sufficient, living off their land and livestock. For them, the politics of Kathmandu seemed a world away. What about the world-famous Gurkha soldiers? By 1900, the Gurkhas had already earned a formidable reputation, serving in the British Indian Army. This was one of the few connections Nepal had with the outside world. Young men from the hill tribes would undertake the long journey to recruitment depots in India. For them, joining the British Army was a path to a regular salary, a pension, and a sense of adventure and prestige. They brought back money, stories, and a glimpse of the world beyond Nepal's sealed borders, planting tiny seeds of change in their remote villages. So, in 1900, Nepal was a land of incredible contrasts. It was a place of deep spirituality and artistic beauty, side by side with extreme poverty and social rigidity. It was a country of opulent palaces and humble mud-brick homes. It was a kingdom fiercely guarding its independence through isolation, yet its strongest sons were fighting for a foreign empire. This unique moment in time, this self-imposed seclusion, couldn't last forever. The winds of change were blowing all around Asia, and eventually they would find their way over the high passes of the Himalayas and into the forbidden kingdom of Nepal. The world of 1900 was the last chapter of an ancient era, just before the dawn of a dramatic and transformative century for this incredible nation. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this glimpse into old Nepal fascinating, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories from history. See you next time.